So since it's 11, I can go ahead and get started, and then hopefully some other people can join on. Welcome to the September 2022 Historic Resources Committee meeting for the City of Charlottesville. My name is Robert Watkins, and I will be moderating today's Historic Resources Committee meeting. If there are any members of the public, we'll have a public comment section that we'll get to a little later in the agenda. But first, let me call the committee roll. I'm just pulling it up right now. So I will just read through the roster, and then if you can just indicate that you're here verbally or just by raising your hand. Tom Chapman. Hi, Tom. Sally Duncan reached out to me and she said that she wouldn't be able to join us today as she's the vice chair of the committee. Jenny Keller.
Here.
Laura Knott. It doesn't look like Laura's with us, and I didn't hear from her. John Mason. It doesn't look like John is here either. Jelaine Schmidt.
Here.
Hi, Jelaine. Kay Slaughter.
Here.
Dee Dee Smith. I know that Dee Dee was going to call in, but she maybe hasn't been able to do that yet. Phil Varner, the chair of the committee.
Here.
Morning, Phil. Jeff Werner doesn't look like he's on yet. He's my fellow staff member, but I hope he'll join pretty soon. And then Richard Wilson.
Here.
Hi, Richard. And that's, and Margaret. Hi, Margaret. You don't appear on our roster anymore, but you still are for now on the committee.
Oh, well, they sent me the link.
So. Well, no, by all means, join us anytime.
Yeah, and I just wanted to take this moment since we're talking about who's on the committee. I first wanted to thank Robert for his many years of service to this committee with the city, and I think we all wish him well in finishing his next degree and whatever comes next for him after that. So I appreciate your work.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I really, really admire all the work that y'all do. And you bring such great expertise to the city and kind of sharing its history. So thank you for coming each month. I really appreciate it.
And we do have 3 open positions on the committee if you would like to apply for one of those.
I have a thesis to write, but if I find some extra time, maybe I'll just.
Yes, of course.
And it looks like John Mason has joined us. Good morning, John.
Good morning, John.
Well, you've done wonderful work for the city, Robert, which is very much appreciated, and you have elevated the professionalism of the department and of the committees that you've served. And so as a member of various of those, I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny.
Look forward to seeing you around afterwards.
Yeah, I'll still be here.
And I also, I had missed that Kay and Margaret had not reapplied to the committee, and so until last meeting, and so I also wanted to offer them thanks for their service to the committee, and I hope you will still. I'm sure you will still be involved with us going forward. And
yes.
So, thank you for that.
Okay.
Thanks to both of you. It's y'all have really done so much with the walking tour and with other projects that we've been working on. Really appreciate all of the work that both of you have done.
Well, just let me know when you want me to stop coming.
Margaret, we haven't stopped sending you the invites for a reason, so.
Yeah. Well, I understood that I think the last time or time before it was that we could continue coming until we were replaced. So, or whatever condition obtained. So I'm happy to come, but if something better for the committee is on the horizon, I'm happy to stop. So.
Robert, I'll hand it. I guess you've done virtual, so I guess we're on to approval of the agenda.
Okay.
Did anyone have any comments or changes to the agenda that they'd like to see? Okay, seeing none, could I get a okay, yes.
I'm a little confused about whether or not we were going to be able to change the agenda so that we could take up the map first.
It is first.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, could I get a motion to approve the agenda? Kay makes a motion to approve the agenda. A second. I see Richard seconds it. All those in favor of approving the agenda, so indicate.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. So we have an agenda and approval of the meeting notes. Does anybody have any comments on those from last time? I don't have them in front of me right now, but we didn't have a lot of people here last time. So I believe only Dee Dee, myself, and Tom are the only 3 members that were here during them. I guess since I'm actually the only voting member who's I'm not even sure what quorum means when you have only a subset of people who should do this. I guess I will I guess these are approved. I don't even know what the right process for that is. So
I'm not an expert, but I think because you have a quorum at the meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
It's legal to hold a vote. And
yeah.
And that you could.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the, so I need a motion from somebody who actually can't vote on.
You could have done all kinds of crazy stuff.
I know, right?
You missed your chance.
Yeah, could I get a motion to approve the meeting notes for August?
I will move to approve the minutes with those who have knowledge of that meeting voting on it.
Okay, that sounds good. Could I get a second for that?
So
Richard seconds that. And then Kay, Tom, and well, they're not members, so I guess Tom and I are the only 2 that can actually vote on this. Okay, so all those in favor of approving the meeting notes. Tom,
I think I'm a standing member. I don't think I have a voting right.
Yeah, I actually thought about that too. That like it's for the meeting notes, so I don't know. It's passed. I voted on it. It's passed. All right, let's just get on with the meeting.
I'm also going to add, just so people know, Dee Dee is calling in. The phone number that you see at the bottom is her. So I think she'll be able to talk and chime in.
She's having trouble on her phone unmuting it. And I told her to check her tools and see if she can unmute. But if anybody, including our technical people, have an idea how to help her, then
I'm Googling. There's some sort of command. I think *6. Dee Dee, if you press *6 on your phone, that should unmute you. It looks like you're unmuted now.
Oh, good. Yay.
Okay. Well, thank you, Phil, and others for voting. I know that logistically it's difficult for the minutes, but I mean, if people have an issue with how we've approved them, they're pretty, they're not, not much happened, so.
Was there a quorum present at the meeting?
There was a quorum present at the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was an official meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's good to have a record of it. And I think what we did was just fine.
Okay.
Okay, Robert, public comment now.
Yes, I'll just read the policy really quickly. We have 3 public attendees, and I'll just give them the option to speak after I read the policy. At the beginning of each meeting, not more than 10 minutes will be allowed for the introduction of any guests and public comments. Speakers may speak for a maximum of 2 minutes, and shall begin by identifying their name and address. So to any of the 3 members of the public who are on right now, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand using the raise hand icon in the participant tab, and I'll allow you to speak. Mr. Chair, it doesn't look like any of the public attendees are raising their hands.
Okay. Next on to the walking tour map work session, and I'll hand this over to Kay or Dee Dee. Dee Dee, were you able to get your voice working?
Can you talk, Dee Dee? Not hearing her.
We're not hearing you.
Dee Dee, you're welcome to email me, or I can shoot you my phone number if you'd like to talk and work something out.
Dee Dee had suggested that maybe instead of always starting at the beginning, since we never seem to get to the end, that maybe we start more in the middle. I can't remember exactly where she said. Maybe it was after.
Actually,
Market
am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
So multiple things. Actually, I think Phil had a good idea that we just emailed briefly right as I was leaving. So, Phil, can you suggest your suggestion? Kay, I am going to let you lead this, as this is very awkward. I'm in a park.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. So my suggestion was just that we start at the end and then, or sorry, not start at the end, start in the middle near where we finished last time, which I can't remember exactly where that was. Go to the end and then go back to the beginning from there.
Sure.
And then also that we've had this draft out for quite a while. So I hope that there aren't too many additional comments, and that anything that that requires substantive changes would have already been communicated to Kay and Dee Dee, and that hopefully we can get through this pretty expediently.
So that would mean starting at Market Street, the page that begins with a list of Market Street. And you'll see on the draft that Dee Dee sent that we've really tried to look at them in terms of the number of lines we have. And so in some places she has marked material we wanted to put in, but that ran over, and it's in red. And that we will still see. We have it written up, and we can still see if we can get it in, as it may turn out, because we're dropping some, in our list. Sometimes we're dropping some places that we're going to have listed, so we may have a little bit more space. But basically, we're trying now at this point to stay to the space that we need. Come up with a draft that we can then run through the different groups. And at the end of this, I'd like to, get from you any additional groups or individuals that you'd like to review this before we go back to our designer to try to put it into the format. One final comment: we have not yet written the second introduction on the second page. I made a crack at it this morning and sent it off to Dee Dee, but it's not ready for prime time. But we're trying to say something a little bit different in the second introduction. So with that, we can just start on Market Street.
Sounds good to me.
And can I just note that our goal, and I really hopefully we can do it by the end of this meeting, is to have something we can then send to these stakeholder community groups.
Yeah, that's so what I meant, the individual.
Yeah, not the very, very, very final, but hopefully it's close.
Right. So starting on Market Street, you will see it's basically the park and the federal courthouse, the library, and then some additional architectural details that we have had to leave out at this point, but hopefully we can get them back in. So, any comments?
Well, one comment that I had, Kay, was to ask whether we wanted to coordinate the 2 dates that we've got there now for the Central Library renovation period. You know, up in the grid in line 10, it lists 1977, and then on the dates below in red, which I assume came from Richard, the date for the redesign and renovation is 79 to 81, which I think is correct. The renovation was 79 and it reopened in the remodeled library opened in 81. Yeah. So I just wondered if we wanted to get those dates.
Yes,
matched.
Good catch. Thank you. Richard?
No, I agree with that. The other thing, though, is, excuse me, that on the former federal courthouse and post office, we have 1907. You ought to put in the other date. Isn't it 1936 when the wings were added?
No. No.
I think. You know, because that's really a significant part of the thing. Just a comma in 1936.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we will double check the date. Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't move the synagogue, right? It was the congregation that moved. It's an entirely.
I'm not clear.
Okay.
My understanding is that yes, that synagogue that's now on Jefferson was brick by brick. Was this? They took it brick by brick.
Okay, so it is. So we can say that the synagogue moved. It's not just the congregation that moved.
Right. It's
great.
Both.
Thank you for clarifying.
That's my. I mean, check with Phyllis for sure. But
I'll check with Phyllis. But I think that's true.
Is what I recall her saying.
And I don't know if it's better to say was relocated or, you know, something like that.
I can confirm that in a second. So go ahead and keep going.
Okay, anything else on this page while Jeff is checking? He can let us know about the.
You know, the federal courthouse also served as a post office. And I think more local people thought of it as a post office. So I do think it should, I know we're short on words. I mean, we were trying to be brief, but I think it should indicate it was a post office.
It does say that.
It does say that.
It does say that. Okay, very good.
Post office that had a federal courtroom in it. I mean,
and there's a typo.
The primary function was post office, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, so it's a federal installation in that sense, I guess. Yeah.
Federal building.
Federal building, yeah.
Actually a typo. It says in 1902, the federal government bought Temple Beth Israel to build a post office and federal courthouse, and we could just say including a federal courthouse or including a federal court.
And I understand it was pretty contentious. There was even a family within the congregation where, like, I think father against son or brother against brother or something about whether that would take place, and some people didn't want to take the deal from I think seems like I remember this, you know.
Yes, and that might be great for an audible thing in the future.
Yeah,
we get Phyllis to
words left here. It probably was contentious, I can imagine.
It was, from what I understand, lawsuit and everything.
Okay.
One question, why is Social Hall 1814 included if it's not described anywhere?
Because we are including in the list many things that are not necessarily described. And hopefully if there, is an audio, there will be more opportunity. We just didn't have the room. It's got great stories to tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, along with the first hospital on the other side of Market Street. So there's a lot of different things that be added.
Well, if you think there's some other in the listing, these were the listing that we had decided on. So we had not included the hospital.
Okay. Just a question.
The historic survey indicates, and this was the survey, the city, there's no name on it, but this is back from the 70s. And the church was built in 1882, where the library is now. And in 1904, it was moved to the present location and rebuilt. So 1882 is the original date, and 1904 it was moved and rebuilt at the current site on East Jefferson.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see if we can put in the move to date. We don't have that right now.
Why not just say, excuse me, why not say built in 1882, relocated to?
Yes.
In 1904.
1904, yeah, whatever it is,
yeah. And putting that right after Jefferson Street, I think would read better too, because I keep reading that as Jefferson Saint Desegregation.
Okay.
And I don't know if it would look like that in the brochure,
Gotcha.
Every time I read that, that's what my brain does.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay.
Mm.
You know, it's just another one of those little pieces that we should keep in mind is Beth Israel has its own cemetery down on the other side of First Street from Oakwood, and an interesting story to that. But again, that's something just to someday add somehow and consider.
Yeah, well, again, as you know, we weren't going beyond Water Street.
So. No. I just given an opportunity to let people know there's more to Beth Israel.
Yeah, and again, that could be something in, you know, if we have a script for an audible, you can say a lot of things like that and tie it into the temple, regardless of where it's located, you know, so I think that
is the preferred term synagogue or temple? I don't know the distinction. Have we checked?
I have, in my conversations with the members of the congregation, it has been temple or not. It's Temple Israel or oh shoot, now I suddenly closed it, but or Congregation Beth Israel.
I think we should get the preference of the
congregation
term they want us to use.
The congregation's website, if you go to the history page, they use the word synagogue several times. They don't use
it. They do.
Yeah.
Great.
It was during the BAR things, we had several things that come through. Y'all may have noticed over there, but they always refer to it as CBI, which is Congregation Beth Israel. So that's what I'm thinking. But whatever's on their website sounds good.
Okay.
One thing I had forgotten to bring this up before. In the sentence, local Black parents sued to desegregate city public schools in 1956, which is accurate, culminating in a court order to fully desegregate in 1962. I think that conflicts with my understanding of what happened in 1962. And I was under the impression that the desegregation order for 62 was just for the children attending Johnson, and that there was never a citywide court order to integrate. It happened because of George Tremonton's redistricting, but that court order wasn't to fully desegregate the entire city.
I will double check that. I think what happened is that they kept, as I recollect, there kept being these orders from the court, like let the 12 students in, the selected students, let these students in. Then they closed the schools. Then they were coming back with other plans that the school board was having to not fully desegregate, and that the court, I thought that the court finally said, no, you just got to desegregate and let schools. But I will double check that, you know, that was my understanding, and that essentially the Court of Appeals decided this. It was appealed by Charlottesville to the Court of Appeals for the 4th District. they, in a 2-to-1 vote, I believe,
Okay.
decided it, and then they asked for the Supreme Court to review it. The U.S. Supreme Court refused to review it in October of '62, and so.
Okay.
But I'll double check.
Okay,
that.
but yeah, that's great. Yeah, so much of this like gets distorted that, you know, I'm always just like, is that exactly the right thing? So
I'd rather be careful. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well, Kay, kind of on that point, and Phil, in this section, a couple of pages forward from where we are now, under the section under desegregation, you make this statement: after multiple appeals, Black plaintiffs prevailed, and Charlottesville desegregated all schools by 1965, and which covers everything, you know, in a comprehensive statement. And I didn't know whether in this section under the Federal Courthouse and Civil Rights, you were aiming also for a comprehensive statement or wanted to, or not. I'll put it that way. I just wondered if it
I think that second statement is ambivalent. I think what we're really saying is that that's when the George Tremonton efforts come in to really fully desegregate. You know, it wasn't anymore a legal kind of thing that they were following, but once he became the superintendent and I'm forgetting his name, the assistant superintendent, they really worked to that end. But thank you for bringing that up. Because
well, I guess my question would be whether you would want a statement in this section about the courthouse and the courtroom to refer to the overall process.
Yeah.
Well, would you want to use 65 here? That's
yeah.
Except for the fact that Burley did not close until 1967, so you can't say that the schools were fully desegregated until the closure of Burley.
Well, I'll check that out. I'm not clear how that all works.
Also, one minor thing is that the courtroom's named in honor of the Swanson case, which I think is important because they made, when they named it, they made that intentional decision to name it after the case rather than him personally.
Okay. I didn't realize that. I thought it was named after him.
No, it's actually named the Swanson case. Oh gosh, see, it's definitely Swanson case room, Swanson case courtroom, Swanson court case room. Anyway.
Okay. Anything else, or ready to move on to Vinegar Hill? Well, let's move on to Vinegar Hill then. I think we lost Dee Dee.
This look like that.
She did say, you know, because she's going across the Bay Bridge or something, that, oh, there she is again.
Yeah, she might have had to call back, but
yeah. Okay, so let's go on to Vinegar Hill. We can come back.
I think I'm unmuted again.
Yeah, we
You're
can hear you.
unmuted, yes.
Sorry, I lost you and then I had to call back. So
yes,
here I am.
We just realized that.
No, okay. But I heard the whole conversation. It was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
And I just, my only comment about Market Street was we used the word synagogue because I thought that people understood. I think I changed that from temple because I know they use the word and I think people understand that word, the general public, more than temple. But
it looks like that's the word that they use anyway on the website.
On their website. Okay, so moving on to Vinegar Hill. And we do have the comments in the last, well, in the desegregation paragraph from Margaret, so we might consider whether to move the fact that the schools were all desegregated by 65 to another section or not. But the rest of it
is kind of repeating it when we do it at Market Street and here. So we have some wiggle room there.
So anything on these pages, either in the background about Vinegar Hill, the urban renewal, more about in detail about the segregated schools, then Jefferson desegregation and the schools, the repurposing of Jefferson and McGuffey.
Well, one small thing I would point out, this is right up at the top in line 5 about Inge's store. I think that should be Inge apostrophe S and
yes.
not, not
yes.
just.
Thank you.
Since the
not a small thing.
yeah, since the actual surname was Inge.
Yeah.
With no S. Yeah.
And in fact, at the celebration of the library that the Historical Society and the library did, the granddaughter-in-law of George Inge was there, and we had a really, so they're around, and we had a really interesting talk.
Is under urban renewal, is there room to add something about proposed plans for redevelopment were never implemented, and today they're fast food, blah, blah, blah?
Were there actually plans for redevelopment, or was it just like, we're going to bulldoze this and then somebody can redevelop it?
Well, there were proposals that were illustrated that show large-scale office buildings.
There were some fairly elaborate drawings that were publicized of possible projects.
Yeah, I just, if we don't have room, it's okay, but I think just the fact that it was such a close vote.
Yeah, we might be able to say something in that last sentence like proposed plans for redevelopment were replaced by, were replaced.
Haphazard scattered development.
Pardon?
And the plans were replaced by haphazard scattered redevelopment of fast food and hotels. No, that's just me being snarky.
If anyone has a very concise but hits the point sentence for that send it along, because it's an important point. It's kind of a lot of big words, though, that if we don't have space for, they just won't happen at all.
Which part?
Just that the proposed plans for redevelopment never materialized. I mean, or whatever, and going on to saying before, today. I mean, there was, whatever.
Or you
that's a hard thing to communicate concisely, but I'm sure there's a way.
You could say something like detailed redevelopment plans were replaced by.
We're not entirely sure how many lines we have here because it's all on the same panel with the list. So the list has changed and we're just kind of guessing. Developer or the designer will tell us immediately, but we don't have a prototype to get. So we might have some room.
Yeah, I think we can work it in. I think that sentence can be a road, not a thoroughfare. There's ways to shorten it. Yeah.
That saves characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do particularly like the mention of the 4-lane road, because that's actually one of the things that I'm harping on a lot in my transportation work now, is how a lot of our worst roads were only made possible by the destruction of Black neighborhoods and Black homes. So I like having that.
All over, yeah.
Or 4 lanes and turn lanes.
Okay. More, anything else?
A lot more there in the next panel, and that's one panel for those sections. We ended up we had Jefferson School and McGuffey as repurposed, kind of integrated into the other sections, and then we realized they really were important enough to pull out. So, but we don't just, that's pushing our space. We need to be concise there too. So there are those in red, there's some extra pieces of information that are cool pieces of information. How important are they to get in there? Such that we'll sacrifice something else. Fine, we just need to.
With one consideration too would be mentioning that when Jefferson High School was built, it was built with a sort of uninteresting standard plan that the state provided versus, the Grand, Lane, and McGuffey, and, at the time Venable buildings, which obviously isn't part of this, but like explicitly drawing that, mentioning that, and then drawing that comparison.
I thought the same thing. I wasn't really sure how and where. I mean, where to put some of these, particularly architectural details, is tricky when the whole topic is something else.
Yeah.
And to put too many ideas into one section just gets confusing. So I agree with you. It's not clear where.
Yeah, and maybe that doesn't even need to be mentioned explicitly, because I think if anybody walked by the Jefferson building and Lane, or the county office building now, and saw those two buildings, like there would be a pretty obvious difference between them that they would notice.
Yeah, but that's good you mention it, because as we move some of this around, if it works out, we could put it in. If we put back something about the other architecture, we might be able to point that out.
It's a lot to put here, but it was intentionally an obscure, hidden site, but on a primary commercial street of the African-American community. But that's a lot to put in a paragraph, but it is an intentional aspect of its design.
Right, and with the...
And I want to add... Go ahead.
I was going to say that opportunity to put something about that here is the fact that we have both McGuffey, which isn't comparable in years. I mean, it's not that far off, but McGuffey and Jefferson next to each other. McGuffey was also Grand, the Grand design, and Jefferson wasn't. And so that's the opportunity. We don't have to interject yet another school to make that point.
It's not that grand, but both Midway and McGuffey occupied elevated sites while Jefferson did not. But then, of course, Lane was built in a sink to replace a Black neighborhood. So it's all very complicated and much more than
more complicated than we can think.
It's thesis stuff. It's not walking tour stuff.
I wanted just to ask Phil, the word you used were generic state plans.
Yeah.
Built according to generic state plans, right?
I think that's what I said, yeah. Or I maybe might use the word standard. Because like basically the state put out like these plans for like 1, 2, 4, and 8 room buildings that you could just like inexpensively put in. And that's what the comparison that I always make is the city approved this standard 8, cheap 8 room brick building for Jefferson High School at the same time that it approved Venable, which was made to look like a UVA building. And so, there's this like very direct comparison between the two. And I think that's even apparent. McGuffey was 10 years prior, but like the difference between McGuffey and, any of the other ones is, or in Jefferson is, a pretty good comparison, for that area.
And these were like described as buildings for colored schools or something?
I don't believe they were actually explicitly for that. I think they were probably used most frequently for that. But they were just designs that existed. You, like,
generic designs rather than
Yeah.
getting the architect. Or
right, exactly. Instead of like designing this grand building that's intended to be like a, you know, community,
right,
you know, cultural
right.
asset. It was just like, here's a brick building that you can put in that can be used for a school.
There was a lot of use of standardized plans for schools, and then like a local supervising architect or architectural firm involved. So I don't know that we want to use the term standardized in a demeaning way here, because it really was very much the mood of the times and the preceding era with the Tuskegee design Rosenwald schools, which were standardized.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult thing to get.
So again, I think it's something for an audio or a thesis.
Maybe, yeah. I think it's more of a comparison rather than saying there's anything wrong with the standardized. The thing that's wrong is that one school got a cheap standardized design, and one got this grand, beautiful building.
Well, and I mean, I have heard community members who were at the time trying to desegregate the schools have talked about that as part of their perception of the schools. So I don't think it's just, you know, whatever the state standards were, it was observed as a big
difference. Can I just interrupt? I don't have...
I'd rather see us emphasize the point that Jefferson was built in response to a petition for for secondary school education for the Black residents of the city.
I just want to caution. I know that, for example, the architect for Burley, same firm designed Albemarle High School, and reading information about the Jefferson School, there's reference to, at least there's a local architecture firm that designed the two-story wing constructed in 1958. So
the wing of what? The wing of what?
The Jefferson School. So
Jefferson.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that probably, like, that gets into a totally separate part that, like, is a little too involved for the walking tour map of, like, those 30 years, things changed a lot, where it went from, no, we're trying to show, like, the white kids get the good facilities, the Black kids get something, to, oh, actually, we need to try to make these better so that we can keep the system segregated,
separate, but equal, right?
Impending, you know, in the impending demise of separate but equal. They were actually, like, intentionally trying to make them equal, at least physically, to perpetuate that. And, like, Burley is the prime example of that, where it was intentionally supposed to be really nice so that they could keep the segregated system in place.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously that is not going to fit in.
We can't get into that much detail here, but maybe we can at least find some way to hint at the differences in this, and then maybe there can be more detail in the audio.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to write all this audio, but anyway, it'll be the next big task.
Anyway, I would love to see you add something about the petition.
About the petition for...
Yeah, I think that's really a major moment in...
The petition for what?
The petition to create a secondary school for the Black residents of Charlottesville.
Okay.
I think that's really important, that they had to ask for it, petition for it, mobilize, organize to get that school.
Okay.
Yep. Which is why it was not available for 26 years. Yeah, after white schools had high school. Yeah, that was our answer to that, but it's not a very good answer to it. So we can try to get the petition, which is...
Yeah, we can try to rework that sentence. I think if we rework that.
I think that parents petition, the petition by Black parents, was like 1921, I want to say.
I don't feel confident pulling up the date.
If you've got a date, Jolene, somewhere, would you just send it to us?
It's in my film.
Okay.
I'll put the link for my film in the box here. I can't remember what the date was though.
Yeah, that sounds
probably
about right.
In the National Register nomination too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because all the school documentation that James Johnson was, doing with these, they were co-incidentally working on both schools
Yeah, we can check the, more recent, as Jenny pointed out, more recent nomination to the national and state registers, because they probably did update all the dates and stuff then.
The petition itself is the document is in the film with the signatures and stuff.
Oh,
and
good.
I believe it says
send it to me, Jolene. I'd like to see it anyway.
And Kay,
I put the link in there.
I was just going to say that I have a copy of Scott French's chapter about the Jefferson School, which has information about the architecture that Phil was talking about. It has a lot of citable information about the petition too. So if you just want to be able to cite this as a reference, I can forward it to you.
That would be great. Yes, thank you. I'm trying to copy some things now. Okay, anything else in this section? If not, we can move back to the beginning.
One minor thing is there were 2 Brown v. Board of Education decisions in 54 and 55. So just despite the 54 and 55 rulings. And I think the main importance of that is that, the Supreme Court was basically like, here's what you have to do. And then a year later, they were like, no, seriously, you have to do this.
All deliberate speed.
Yeah, and so I think that, it's sort of like adding yet another brick in this narrative of like the intransigence to actually comply with court orders.
Could we insert the word gradually before desegregated?
Where are you talking about? Charlottesville?
Under desegregation.
Okay, yes, and that may move to another section, but I can, yes, yeah. I hear what you're saying.
And I'm still disputing this 1965 date.
Okay.
Because I don't think you can say that if Burley remained open.
So this sort of gets into semantics too, because I usually use the term desegregated to mean there was at least one student, a different race in the school. And so Lane and Venable got desegregated because there were Black students that started going there, but there were only, 9 of them and 3 of them, and those 9 were in a separate building. But, and then integration to mean that like there was a standard plan of like, here's who goes to the school. It's not, 3 people aren't going because of court order. It's because they live in this area or they live in the city, or, it's more than just court ordered.
Yeah, so it's very proper to use integrated for Jefferson School being the junior high.
Yes, right.
There was no
other alternative.
Yeah.
Well, I will look this up, because my understanding from the documents, which I have read pretty carefully, was that despite those original plans that said, admit this group of students because they passed the test and the interviews and stuff, that the courts eventually said, And it also had provisos in like, if you get to if you're in a school where you're in the minority, you can opt out of it, which meant white kids would opt out of them. And so, when they would try to integrate the schools, and eventually the court said, we're not going with any of those.
Yeah.
We are really saying you've got to desegregate. So I will just look that up but I'm saying this because I don't think it was quite as people are now describing it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I would even be in favor of making it, more general rather than trying to get all the like exactly what, because it's like so complex, and like the point that we're trying to get across is that it was a gradual process and eventually resulted in integration of the schools. But that like, which year, which exact thing happened at which school is kind of like not particularly relevant for this particular.
And then they just closed Jefferson and McGuffey, so they wouldn't have any majority Black schools.
Yeah.
If you were going by neighborhood.
We made it to the end.
Yay.
Yes. And I was just going to ask if you had anything else that you wanted to bring up from the earlier pages that you, because you missed a meeting or you came up with something afterwards later. And if anybody has something earlier, if you would bring it up now. And just to remind you, that would be in the downtown area, the Water Street and Court Square.
I think that the revised first paragraph about the Monicans is good. And I had a couple other minor things that I sent to Dee Dee. But you know, I think overall this is pretty good now.
This is a little bit picky and it might be controversial, I don't know. But in the discussion of Market Street Park, should there be a reference that it was briefly renamed Emancipation Park, because that's the name that it was named officially during the events of 2017. So if anybody was following something that they had read, they might be looking for it and they would never find it. And again, I know we want to cut words, but I'm just wondering if there should be something about briefly renamed or for a short time renamed.
I just don't know where we would put it. It won't go in the listing. It's too long.
Yeah. Oh, right. But it could even be in parentheses or something. It's just kind of part of one of the significant events associated with its history, and that's the name it had then.
Yeah, I think my feeling is that's okay to leave out of the brochure.
Yeah, it might be an audio text thing.
Okay.
One question I would have too is whether interracial is the right word to use for that instead of like multiracial, or
where are you now?
The heading that's interracial families. This is on page.
Got it.
Something. The pages aren't
yeah,
right.
Actually, that's probably a better word given all the various different people and could say multi.
I would also
multi-ethnic.
Nitpicky detail there is that he wasn't really a common law husband. They were not married. I mean, they were in a relationship.
Yeah.
They were brought to court in 1820 for fornication charges. So, you know, there was an understanding they did not have a formal approved relationship. Now, they may be considered that, but it wouldn't be common law.
Well, common law was anybody who'd been together a certain number of years. It's certainly true they brought up this fornication by saying, you know, they can't be common law because they're, you know, one's white and one's colored. But if they had, anyway, we can change the words.
Well, I think the point being is you'd want to make sure that the focus is the realization that this was not allowed.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
It was illegal.
Yeah. And you have that.
I say in common law.
We do say that explicitly. Yeah.
You already say like illegality of the relationship.
Yeah.
So maybe we could just delete common law husband.
Yeah.
I am a little disappointed that we've removed the fact that the whipping post in stocks was the center of civic life.
Okay.
And should we say Wells Fargo or should we say?
We are trying to take out the current names of buildings.
Because next year it could be something else.
Because next year it could turn into something else. And we actually did that. I think we changed, you know, because we had the Virginia National Bank, and I think we caught that this time and changed it. The site, we call it something else. Site of David Isaacs and Nancy West.
I think you could call it the High Rise Bank or something like that.
Where is it? I guess it's number, which one is it? Here. Anyway, I'll check that. Yes, I think we could. I think it originally was written as the first high rise. I'll find it, the address, and make sure it's in there. Oh, I know it's where Bell, site of Bell Hemming Scott House, National Bank of Charlottesville, 1920. First high rise.
Under early businesses, I think the historic name would have been Charlottesville Hardware, that the hardware store was the name of a restaurant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, Charlottesville.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
But one thing I've been meaning to ask
You do call it that on the, would it be okay, is it okay Charlottesville Hardware Store, or was it just hardware? Because that's how we have it listed on the list.
You'd have to look at an ad.
Okay.
I don't know if it was Charlottesville Hardware or the Charlottesville Hardware.
Yeah.
And do you know, Margaret, was Gilmore Furniture the forerunner of Gilmore, Hammond, Snyder? Was it Gilmore first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. That's my belief.
Dee Dee, you should be back on now.
I think I'm on. Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you.
I just didn't have anything to say now.
Yeah.
We're past what I had to say. Sorry, guys. My connection keeps getting lost, so I keep calling back. I know we're almost done.
And under Downtown Mall, I think we should use the name of the firm, because Halpern himself did not personally design the mall.
Okay. Do you know?
So it would be Lawrence Halpern and Associates.
Thank you.
A lot of letters.
It's okay. It will fill out the last sentence.
Oh, one thing I had been trying to find this, and I've been unable to here for several minutes. Under the section of transportation transformation, the last sentence there, in 1976, City Council made the bold decision to transform downtown into a pedestrian mall. Would that be better Well, I think it would be more accurate to say to transform Main Street into a pedestrian mall.
Yeah.
Oh, good
Yeah.
point.
Good point.
And they really made the decision for a portion of Main Street.
Yeah, but at least it was not
That's
the
true.
whole of
And-
downtown.
Right, right. And I mean, at some point you say things that are true, but there's more to say. So we always have to make that judgment. But a portion of your or stretch of, or you know, however you say it, is more accurate.
The other,
sometimes you have to grit your teeth and.
yeah, and actually above this, we are talking about that part of Main Street. So I think using the Main Street again it's in the context of the Three Notched Road here, the downtown area. So I think you can say that. But I have a question. In 1976, did they make the decision or was the mall up and running then?
They made the decision before 1976.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was done. 76 is kind of when it was done,
Yes.
but 74 is when the
Yeah, okay, it was done then. That's what I thought. So we'll figure out how to change that sentence to indicate that it was.
We can put a date next to the downtown mall on the list too.
Yeah, we can.
So, to the
With
year
a quorum
it-
present,
sorry,
but only 2 people voting.
Yeah, we're not going to go into that detail. We know it, but we're not going into that.
Anyway, I think we should say several blocks of Main.
How about Eastern Main Street? Has
No, it's got part of West Main Street is
Yeah,
down there too.
I know. I didn't say East Main Street. I said Eastern.
Yeah, but that's.
I think that's even more confusing.
Yeah.
you could say the downtown
East
section,
end of Main Street.
Yeah.
or the
Let's say
downtown
several
section.
blocks of Main Street.
I mean, it's apparent where it is. Like,
Yeah,
on
we're telling them in the beginning, we're describing it as the downtown mall. It ran along this trail. It became known as Main Street. Blah, blah, blah happened. And then the city council transformed what we're talking about into a pedestrian mall. So I really think maybe you're getting a little too nitpicky about that one. I think in the context,
Okay.
People will understand it. And especially people who are not from here that just come and look at it,
But you do agree about using Main Street instead of downtown.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Yes. And that's easy because that doesn't go off into a new line.
Yes, right. We're definitely into Liza, and we'll get rid of 76 anyway somehow.
But you really can just substitute downtown for Main Street. I mean, Main Street for downtown. Transform Main Street into a pedestrian mall.
Yeah, that's
But
what
we really are
suggest.
talking about Main Street here. I think to stick with Main Street is not a bad idea. If it's the same thing, let's make it as consistent with the reader who isn't from here or who doesn't pay attention. It's like.
Yeah, I think you all have to leave some of those things to Dee Dee and me, just, to go over the sentences. But I hear what you're saying, and I think we can deal with it.
And we're writing them down. So when we
Yeah.
here's our final version to send out. Going to change again. We can also talk to you about that. But to say, to add 3 words means you are taking that many letters, that many words out somewhere else. So we really have to say what's more important.
Yeah, really, it comes down to this.
Yeah. I mean, we've taken out a whole sentence, so on the next panel. So that's all good. That's great. That does buy us time, or buy us space. But we haven't done that here on this panel. I'm not chastising anybody. I'm just saying that those are the decisions that Kay and I are just always grappling with. Have to take things out, sometimes clarifying to the exact.
And finding different words, sometimes we can do that. As Margaret just pointed out.
This is very helpful, everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, there will, I mean, that this is where we do talk about those finer points, so that when we get a version to send out that will likely have tweaks again, we can talk about the larger points, what needs to be in, what doesn't need to be in.
And when we
It's
get
great,
to
and it's all good. It also informs the next step, whoever does it, of the much longer narrative in an audio tour, website, or whatever it is. All of this informs that, so it's all good.
Yeah, and we'll try to make notes of some of these things so that even if they don't go in, we'll have some notes that we can refer back to as we start to get a audio.
And I'm taking notes too, Kay, just so we can.
No, I know we're taking notes, but I know we're taking notes, but I'm saying maybe we can also put these notes into some sort of format so that it can be used by people who are doing the audio tour as well, because there have been good suggestions that could go into the audio tour.
Again, it's a little picky, but under transportation, I don't think we should say later the automobile-enabled businesses.
Okay, what do you think we should say?
I just think maybe just eliminate later and just say the automobile-enabled businesses to move outward, or use of the automobile encourage businesses to relocate.
Oh, we're going to get in trouble for that one. How about if we put also for later? I mean, that's just one word for another.
Because the automobile coexisted with the streetcar, and
so we can relate it to the sentence before, bring outward growth. I think we really wanted to make the point that businesses moved out of downtown.
Or maybe the use of the automobile in suburbanization or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Or the automobile further encouraged.
Yeah, something like that.
Suburbanization of business suburbanization.
Well, if the streetcar and the automobile both did that, we could combine those two somehow, those two sentences, to get those bigger words in. If we're saying the same thing about streetcars for suburbanization, then I mean, they did it in a different way. Like automobiles got farther and with more freedom than the streetcars. But again, we were trying to say streetcars started it. Automobiles made it happen. I don't know if that's what we're saying, but you know what I'm saying? I mean,
well, I think more of the streetcars just expanding the city to Fry Springs and other places like that, whereas the automobile really encouraged moving further out into the county, both businesses, development of Barracks Road and then beyond, because people could move around.
Yeah. I mean, it's the automobile that allowed Reinhardt to build a high-rise bank on Main Street and live out on 250 West and start a country club named Farmington because you had automobiles.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the whole story. We can't go into all that, but that's it. Because you could live at Farmington and drive downtown to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
somehow
later,
we can work on
put
this.
in a little bit more.
We can work on this sentence. I think it's just trying to distinguish the role of the automobile beyond streetcars. And I think I get it, what you're saying, Jenny, and we can do that.
Even farther, or,
well, we can work on it.
And the whole idea that was tied to downtown declining. Now, Margaret, you could tell us that's not true, but that's the. But it's a good point, and we will try to make that better without adding a line.
Okay. I would like to try to wrap this
Yeah,
up.
let's try to wrap it up.
If nobody else has any significant comments or anything that you don't want to defer to, just email Kay or Judy about.
Just had one comment. I've been meeting with the Friends of Downtown Seville, Greer Kelly, who's the new executive director, Michael Kaplan. They're very interested in seeing this map come together because they're very interested in kind of taking it to the next level of doing some type of QR coded interaction, landing page app for further information, audio tour. So just to kind of light a fire here that there's an interest there with the community to utilize something.
Yes, and we've been in touch from the very beginning with both Charlie and Greer, so they are on the list to get notices of this.
That'll be for the second edition because we can advertise QR codes. Cool.
Yeah.
But not till they're there. Thank you, everybody. This has been great. And really, don't hesitate. If you got more thoughts, send them along. But we will try to wrap this up and send you a copy to send to, and in Kay, we were going to talk about which organizations, but we
yes, we would like to hear any other organizations that you would like us to, or individuals, if you think there are some individuals you would like to see this, but we would like to get, you know, their names and how we can reach them. Do I have?
So, yeah. So when we send, send the version, hope to send out. We'll send you everybody who has already been mentioned because we've talked about this at this meeting, and suggested, and you can add to it, correct from it if you think it's wrong. So there will be an opportunity to do that.
Well, again, maybe why don't I just send out that list as soon as we get off of this, because I do have the list, I think, in my computer, and I could just send it to everybody, and then you can look at the list while the thought is fresh and just send us back any names you want to add. If that's okay.
Yep. Great.
Yeah.
How about you all? But I'm getting in a kayak.
Okay, enjoy.
Okay, I am gonna sign off. See y'all.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Thanks, Judy.
At the end of Albemarle County Courthouse, is something missing other than a period?
The end of Albemarle.
Is there missing language, or is it just supposed to end? Should we just add a period to that sentence?
At the end of where now? In
the last sentence of Albemarle County Courthouse. Are there missing words?
The last sentence of Albemarle County. No. Wait, maybe there is. No, it's a period.
Okay, thanks.
Although I thought we had some names in there of architects, but I don't.
We did have.
And I don't trails. It doesn't.
Yeah, when Dee Dee did this,
it seems like an incomplete sentence.
No, the classical portico was built in finally the current revival entrance. But I think we did have names in here, and I'll look back. Thank you for bringing that up. We definitely, after talking to Richard, had put in some names here.
Yeah, we had an architect there. I can look it up.
Yeah, I can too. I still have that, so I'll find it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just make one observation. I don't mean to be complaining as such, but I'll just comment. When you all had the whole document with consecutive line numbers all the way through from 1 to 180 or whatever it was, I frankly found it easier to find things when it was that way than I do with separate numbering for each topical section.
Yeah, I don't even understand how she did this. So Dee Dee did that, and I don't know how to do the numbers or anything. So I've never done. That's just
an observation.
Okay, I'll mention that to her, and maybe, because that probably is easier if somebody wants to say line 159 change X to Y. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't have page numbers here, so
My numbers would be great.
yeah, I'll ask Dee Dee to do that.
Okay, last call.
Thank you. Thanks to you,
All right.
everybody. This was very
Bye-bye.
helpful. You know, if there's anything else, please send it very soon, because we will try to get something out before our next meeting to our long list, and I will find that list and send it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this represents so much great work, and I think it really tells a good story, and I'm looking forward to this. I think one thing I just wanted to, you know, sort of check on consensus with the committee is if the committee is okay with DD&K sending this out when they get a draft together, or they get a draft together and the committee sort of approves it over email. Does anybody feel we need to have a formal vote or any sort of approval at a meeting for sending this to any of the people that we, or I guess making it public in general, but also sending it to specific people?
I think it would be better to just send it out and say we've been working on it and we'd like feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too, because there may be errors and things like that in there, and I don't necessarily want people to have sort of, you know, agreed to it and then be embarrassed by some error that we made, that Dee Dee and I made. So
yeah, I honestly don't. I typically in my regular work in a very open way that puts things that are incomplete out, with the expectation that intention is to put it out early and rougher and get feedback and make it better.
Exactly.
To like only release it when you think it's in a perfect state and then inevitably have problems. So, you know, I am, you know, very comfortable with the way that we're working, the collaborative and open way that we're working, and the fact that we're explicitly, you know, soliciting feedback from community members and the community in general prior to, you know, printing this thing for real. Okay, good. And with that, I guess we will move on to the next agenda item.
And I'm going to be leaving you all. I'm also out of town, so I need to go, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Kay.
Thanks, Kay.
Yeah, thank you.
John, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I do. I have to leave as well. The African American portrait exhibition that's based on Halsinger Studio portraits opens 2 weeks from yesterday, and there's a lot of work to do, and I have to go off and do it. But can you allow me to share my screen?
You should be allowed to. If not, let me know.
Okay, great. Well, we have our posters, and we have our posters, and the website is coming very soon. The brochures are coming very soon. We actually have a VIP opening on next Friday. So if you have written 6-figure checks to UVA, you are welcome to come. But the public opening is going to be on Thursday, the 22nd. It's a huge exhibition. We've got the entire main gallery of the Special Collections Library, and it is just full of things. It's not just portraits, but it's all kinds of other ephemera that support the portraits and give you a sense of what the African American community was doing in this period. We're really proud of it. It's a tremendous amount of research that has gone into this, and a beautiful exhibition design. Tell your friends that they don't have to worry about parking, because on that Thursday from 4:30 until 8 o'clock, we're going to have shuttle buses running from the Jefferson School. So we understand that UVA is hard to navigate and parking there is a pain in the butt, but we're going to have these shuttle buses. The shuttle buses are free. Parking at the Jefferson School, as you know, is virtually unlimited with its garage. So free shuttle buses from 4 to 8 will be taking people back and forth to the exhibition. And we're excited. You know, our goal is to change the way that everybody in Central Virginia sees their history. And we mean that, everybody, and we mean see in two distinct ways. When people think of what did Black folks look like during the early 20th century, they don't imagine people like Minnie McDaniel there. We also want to change the way that they understand their history, because when you look at Minnie McDaniel, you probably thought, oh, she must be a very affluent woman, a woman of means. Jelaine knows that she was not a woman of means, that she worked with her hands. She was a laundress all her life. And that distinction between the status the Jim Crow society gave to Black people, the jobs that they held, but who they were, who they felt themselves to be, and who they wanted you to see that they were. It's that tension, it's that contradiction that really powers this exhibition. So it's going to be great. And if you come on the 22nd, guess who else you get to see? You get to see Jelaine Schmidt, because she's got an exhibition there at Special Collections too. So, and I think that they reinforce each other in really interesting ways. So please, you know, one of the things that, can I email this group and include attachments?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, so I'm going to email this group and include attachments. I'll include a couple of our posters as JPEGs. They won't clog up your system. They're not huge. And I'll send you our brochure. Our brochure will be ready in the next couple of days. And I'll send you that as a PDF. But please tell your friends. It's on the 22nd. Doors open at 5. Shuttle buses start running a little sooner. That's a Thursday. They don't have to worry about parking. They don't have to worry about navigating UVA. And we welcome anybody who comes. So,
thank you so much, John.
Okay, I'm sorry about a run, but there's a million things to do between then and now. Plus I'm teaching, so, you know, I'm busy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I'm glad to hear that both that and Jelaine's exhibit are going to be at the same time, because I was briefly worried that I was going to have missed Jelaine's. So I guess I'll pass it over. We're at the engagement of the descendant community for Quartz Square slave auction block site item on the agenda. So I guess I'll pass it over to Jelaine. Maybe if you want to just briefly discuss what your folks are doing and what they've produced over the summer, and yeah,
sure,
take on that.
Can I quickly share something about the exhibit that's sponsored by the Memory Project? I'm going to share my screen here. Can you see this poster?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is a 5th anniversary exhibit about the Summer of Hate that is sponsored by the Memory Project, which I direct under the Democracy Initiative. And it's curated by former students, student activists, so who are now alums. Many of them who are depicted here in that horrible torch rally around the Jefferson statue from that night. And so, yeah, were here. They were witnessed this, experienced this, and they also curated this. So anyway, encourage you to come on, as you know, John mentioned that September 22nd, but there'll be a panel late afternoon, time not determined yet, but on Monday, October 17th, there'll be a panel with some of the student activists who curated this. And that will be in the Harrison Auditorium, you know, at there. So let's see, how do I get out of this now? There we go. Stop share. But anyway, so y'all are welcome to come. Probably be 4:30, 5 p.m. somewhere in there on Monday, October 17. And just kind of talk about the process of, of putting together, this exhibit. I'm going to show one more thing really quickly here. Oh, wait. Sorry. Is that not showing the, let's try this. Anyway, well, that's all right. Sorry. I'll just, I can't get out of the share screen here mode. Here we go. Okay. Sorry. Anyway, come see it, So anyway, pivoting on into the research project on sales of enslaved people. It's great. We had 3 researchers, history graduate students working this summer, and because they didn't have classes, they had more time to devote to the project, which was nice. And they got almost all the way through. They are just on the last little bit of those 6 chancery books that are there, each of which have about 600 pages in them. So this is quite laborious, and they're handwritten, of course. And so they've made it, all of those go from like the 1830s to 1865, that they're looking at those, and they've made it almost all the way through those, and are now going to start on the city council minutes. And although there are microfilm, for the city council minutes that are preserved in the Library of Virginia, unfortunately, they're very poor quality and can hardly be, it's very difficult to read them. And it's actually the actual hard copy original sources are actually easier to read. So anyway, we're going to have, probably a team of 3 graduate students kind of keep with that, and perhaps augment it up to 4, because we really want to keep the momentum going and get all the way through these city council minute books, in this next year, because there's kind of a time limit compression on it, because the city is, of course, doing all this renovation of the courts and is moving things around, and has said that they want to digitize these records, which is a process that will take probably over a year and stuff. And so anyway, so the team's trying to get through.
Hi. I'm sorry, just a second. I'm on. Hold it.
Sorry.
Oh. Hey, Jelaine.
Yeah.
Because so I've been looking at old city council information, and I know that there's some online that goes way back. I don't know how far, but I agree. What I find in the minutes are almost useless, even the current minutes. But to look at, there are also folders for ordinances and resolutions and funding. So they often the information is not in the minutes. The details are going to be in seems like everything the council did was through a resolution or an option of the ordinance. So you might have to, if you see those other folders, pick through them as well.
Okay.
It's yes, it's definitely tries your patience, but there's a lot there.
Yeah, I'm hoping that with 4 students, they can just drill down. Are those on the same shelves with the minutes? And there's like about 4 dozen of them or something?
I'll send you what I have access to and see if it looks the same.
I'm gonna loop us in, and I'll send it to the graduate student team as well, so that everybody's on the same page with this, because they're also they're consulting with them.
And then just always ask Kina. She seems to be a magician for knowing where things are and are not. So
who was that? I'm sorry.
Kina.
Okay.
The yeah, or Max, one of the other, Max Cecilia.
Okay.
But they've always been super helpful. They love.
All right. Yeah, let's get an email chain going between you and I, and then I will reply to that, and I will CC in the research team as well, so that we make sure that everybody is aware of all resources,
So everyone's in chaos. Got it.
No, just, the nice thing is, it's just, they've got a really good supervisor for the team, who is Gillette Rosenblith, who just got her PhD in history at UVA here a couple of years ago. She's a postdoctoral fellow at the Memory Project. And so she is supervising this team of graduate student history student researchers that are dedicated, that this is their job,
It's fun stuff. All right, I'll send you that, and we're on the same page. Good.
Great. Okay. Yeah.
Now, Joy, what is the date range of these minutes that they're examining? Is this from the town or is it literally city? I mean,
does it predate the designation of city?
Right, yeah.
Not sure about that, but they're especially going to be combing through after the fugitive slave law, in the 1850s, because then the problem of people that are presumed to be slaves because they don't have free papers and they have black skin, and they're running around. That's when it kind of comes up in the minutes a lot, this phenomenon. And so it's then that they kind of, they capture said people and sell them, if they can't find an owner, and anyway, so yeah, I think that there's apparently, it is a kind of needle in a haystacky kind of because it's like, there's not a lot there, it's not as there is in the chancery books, but they're gonna kind of just comb through. It's just like, just to try and find this stuff while we got the momentum and the human power.
But it is the antebellum.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Up to 1860. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Are the fugitive entries the main thing that they're looking for in the minutes, or are there other things?
Other things.
I haven't heard about the minutes before.
Any evidence of sales of enslaved people? That they're just kind of trying to set out a net, that supplements some of the research that's been done previously, and then something I'm pleased to say is that we've got as consultants on this, Andrew Davenport, and who is the director of the Getting Word Project at Monticello, and himself a Monticello descendant who is a PhD candidate in history at Georgetown, and Naya Bates, Triple Who, former student of mine actually, who was formerly the director of the Getting Word Project, also a Monticello descendant, and also a PhD student in history at Princeton. And so it's nice to have that, consultants who are both descendants, local descendants, and themselves trained historians too, so I'm really pleased that they're making time in their busy graduate student life to kind of help to advise on this, on future steps. And then we're also continuing to hold meetings with descendants. We're hoping to do that late this month with some of the representatives of descendant groups here to kind of give them an update on what's happening, and also to talk about next steps, especially with Andrew Davenport and Naya Bates in terms of data management and how and in what form to make these data available, and so anyway, so this is something that we're working on, for good reason. The descendants, although they have told us in the engagement process that, definitely, that there's been consensus on, yes, we want more information. We want, kind of, some of the stories, this is not just treating as data. I mean, right now they're, these individuals are kind of lines in ledger books, but how to kind of enflesh, those records, with narrative when possible, what I mean? Because it's not always, there's not always a lot there, So anyway, so we're, kind of moving ahead and trying to determine kind of what our next steps in terms of data management and storage and availability of that. So I hope that after we've talked, after the team has talked with descendants, maybe late next month, that perhaps in maybe not October yet, but maybe in November, we could have the team come in again as we have before and kind of give an update on where things are at, and also what we've learned from consultation with these descendant historians as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. I would love to have them in to present, and I think we also should probably at sometime soon discuss what this committee should have as an outcome to City Council, staff as a recommendation, because I think it's probably different than something that what we had in mind, at least what I had in mind at last year, or actually, I mean, this has been going on for a couple of years now. What the eventual outcome of this for city council would be, because there's so much other stuff going on outside of our committee on this now, that you've, specifically the stuff that you're doing through the memory project, that I think the committee has a different role now, maybe, and that we should figure out what exactly this committee should be recommending to council, given that there's a lot of work being done now on this outside of which is, I think that I think that's important, because that should be the goal, that like other groups outside of this committee should be doing all that work, and we should sort of be channeling their desires to channeling their desires as recommendations to city council, rather than doing the work ourselves.
Right.
And
absolutely. Yeah, I see this as kind of memory project, and I think we're going to try to apply for a grant, like kind of digital history. There's kind of digital justice grants that are available out there from NEH and other sources, to fund this, and also about, if it's possible to build this out into some sort of website or something like that. But that is in addition to, and hopefully in the service of, the memorialization project that we're most interested in here, and that we can, provide recommendations for. We thought it's important to kind of get the data, and the researchers themselves are kind of working on these vignettes, these kind of narrative vignettes, for when they do have kind of more information or names and these sorts of details, and I think that there'll be enough of those, and maybe that are kind of representative of a kind of collective that's fairly large, of course, but to have kind of enough of those that I think could kind of be serve kind of memorialization processes, so. Yeah, so I'm hoping to have something to really robust. I think maybe we've already made the kind of preliminary report to city council, but to have it's like here we have this is what we've built out to,
okay, that sounds good. Does anybody else have any comments or questions about this? Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, staff updates. Jeff and Robert.
I don't have any updates other than today is my last day, but we've discussed that already. The next BAR meeting is a week from Tuesday. So if you want to see things that are going through design review for the city, feel free to attend or to look on. Jeff, do you have anything that you'd like to share?
No, I did send Jenny the thing about Wortland that's coming back. So and Jenny sent you and Mary Joy. I don't know if there's others with Pres Piedmont. You can circulate that to them. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, the new apartment building project for Wortland Street, adjacent to the Wertenbacher House, is being reviewed this month. But those materials are going to be posted today by the end of the day. So they'll be available for the public to see.
Okay. Next is coordinate the agenda for the October meeting. We'll probably have some more to do on the work map, since hopefully we'll have some feedback from community members by then. And that will probably won't be a work session, but more of an update. I don't I mean, maybe at the next meeting, we should also sort of discuss what we see as the outcome of the descendant community project, and see what we think the outcome should be and what the time frame for that we'd like to send something to city council and staff is. Are there any other items to add to that agenda?
I might propose, we didn't get to talk to it at this meeting, but the Key Rec Center, there's just been a little bit of interest expressed in some sort of historic marker talking about Key, the man the building is named for. So if that's something that the committee like to take on, just a small interpretive marker to place in the building, maybe it's something you can talk about the feasibility of at the next meeting.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I had been discussing with Kay, and she is going to work up something about that and send it to Jeff. And then Jeff, if this works for you, she will send that to you, and you can perhaps work up a plan for text revision maybe, and then a specific plan for like, here's the plaque that we would order to put up, and then we can discuss that within the committee.
Okay. So,
I think that would be a good, I think that might be something to put on the agenda next week or next month. I think it would depend on how far Kate gets with that before then. So we'll have to sort of figure that out with her before that meeting.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. Any other?
I think Kay was, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. I think Kay was going to check with Herman Key's widow. Yeah. I don't really know her, but I just, sometime before shutdown, I was at some public meeting and we happened to be sitting next to each other, and we started to talk about Herman Key, and I think she would very much like, just from that brief encounter, I think she'd very much like to participate in this and have her husband remembered for his many contributions to planning the neighborhood.
Yes, and that is exactly what Kay expressed that her approach was going to be. She's already been discussing that with I forgot her name, but well, the family in general, not just her.
Because I know we want to have that presence of checking with descendants and relatives and people who live on a street, and I think she'd be very willing.
Yes, she is, and Kay's already working with her and in contact with her, and that will be a very key part of this, or whatever Kay communicates to Jeff. Okay, any other announcements? Okay, if there are none, then I'll conclude this meeting of the Historic Resources Committee.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to email you my contact information. Would love to hear from you. And I hope I'll run into all of you sometime again in Charlottesville.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you.